Commander Elias's shuttle pierced the violet sky of Valoria, leaving a trail of silver light behind it. Below, the alien world stretched in impossible beauty. Cities floated above the ground, suspended by glowing energy fields. Rivers of light snaked through forests that pulsed with a soft bioluminescent glow. Birds or something like them soared alongside his shuttle, their wings shining like crystals. Elias had seen many planets, but nothing like Valoria. Its beauty was overwhelming, yet he felt tension in the air. This was no ordinary diplomatic mission. He was the personal guard of Princess Lyra, heir to the Zerathi throne. Humans were rare here, and most aliens did not trust them. The shuttle landed smoothly atop a floating platform. As the doors opened, Elias felt the wind of Valoria brushing against his uniform. The air was thick but sweet, carrying scents of flowers he had never seen before. Soldiers in shimmering armor bowed as he stepped out. They spoke a language he did not understand, but their gestures were respectful. At the center of the platform stood Princess Lyra. She was unlike anyone Elias had ever met. Her skin shimmered with a subtle golden hue, and her eyes were deep like pools of liquid light. Her hair moved almost as if it had a life of its own, flowing gently despite the lack of wind. She was tall, graceful, and carried herself with confidence. "Commander, Elias," she said in perfect human common, her voice calm but commanding. "Welcome to Valoria. I trust your journey was safe." Elias bowed slightly. "Safe enough, Your Highness. I am ready to serve." Lyra's gaze lingered on him, curious. "You do not understand how much responsibility rests on your shoulders. Protecting me is not just about fighting. You must understand our ways, our dangers, and our politics." Elias nodded. "I am prepared to learn." A sudden alarm blared through the palace. Red lights flashed across the platform. Lyra's brow furrowed. "Trouble. Follow me." They raced through a corridor of translucent walls that showed the glowing forest below. Elias kept a careful eye on every shadow, every movement. Even the palace guards looked tense. In the main chamber, a group of intruders had breached the security field. They were armed with strange energy weapons. Most of the palace guards froze, unsure how to respond. Elias stepped forward. He had trained for moments like this. Using the human instinct for improvisation, he dodged a beam and rolled behind a pillar. He grabbed one intruder, twisted his arm, and disarmed him. Another came at him, but Elias anticipated the move and pushed him off balance. Lyra, standing calmly behind him, raised her hand. A pulse of energy shot from her palm, knocking another intruder unconscious. Elias could see why she was the heir. She was powerful and intelligent, yet graceful under pressure. After a few minutes, the intruders were defeated. Elias checked on Lyra. She was unharmed, but her eyes were sharp with concern. "You were fast," she said. "Faster than any guard we have." Elias shrugged. "Humans have their ways." Lyra studied him, her expression unreadable. "Perhaps your ways are more than we imagined." The council arrived, their robes shimmering in the light of the chamber. They stared at Elias with a mixture of suspicion and awe. A human protecting the princess. Some whispered, some frowned, but none dared speak openly. "Commander Elias," Lyra said, turning to the council. "This human is under my command. He is to guard me, learn our ways, and act with discretion. Anyone who doubts him will answer to me." Murmurs ran through the council. One elder stepped forward, his voice cold. "Your Highness, we respect you, but humans are unpredictable. Can we trust him with your life?" Lyra's eyes narrowed. "If you cannot trust me to choose my protector, then perhaps your place is not here." The council fell silent. Elias could feel the tension in the room, but Lyra's confidence gave him reassurance. He realized that on Valoria, respect was earned, not given. Later, Lyra led Elias through the floating gardens, a place of rare beauty and peace. Plants glowed softly, and streams of water floated in the air held by unknown forces. Birds with translucent wings sang in melodies humans could barely hear. "This is my favorite place," Lyra said softly. "It is where I think, where I dream, and where I sometimes feel alone. Elias nodded, sensing her unspoken words. You do not have to face anything alone anymore, Princess. Lyra looked at him then, her gaze lingering longer than before. Perhaps. But you are only beginning to understand Valoria, Elias. This world, my people, there are dangers that even you cannot foresee. As if on cue, alarms sounded again. This time, the palace sensors detected a hidden saboteur attempting to disable the energy shields. Elias and Lyra ran toward the chamber, their footsteps echoing in the crystalline corridors. Elias spotted a figure tampering with the shield controls. Without thinking, he lunged, grabbing the saboteur and twisting him to the floor. Lyra joined him, sending a controlled energy pulse to incapacitate the intruder. The shield system stabilized, glowing stronger than before. Breathing heavily, Elias looked at Lyra. She gave a small, approving nod. You are remarkable, she said quietly. Elias smiled faintly. I just do what needs to be done. Lyra's eyes softened, a hint of something deeper showing. Perhaps, long before they sent you here, I needed someone like you. Elias paused. Her words struck him, though their meaning was unclear. Was it prophecy? Instinct? Or something in her heart? He didn't know yet, but he knew one thing. This mission would be unlike any he had faced before. The sun, or whatever light source Valoria had, set behind the floating cities, casting a golden glow over the palace. Elias watched as Lyra turned, back toward the gardens, graceful as ever, and he felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Protecting her would require more than skill or strength. It would require trust, courage, and perhaps a connection neither of them yet fully understood. For Commander Elias, the adventure on Valoria had only just begun. The morning light over, Valoria glimmered softly on the palace walls. Commander Elias stood on the balcony watching the floating gardens below, pulse with color. He felt a mixture of awe and unease. Protecting Princess Lyra was more than a duty. It was a challenge, unlike anything he had faced before. Lyra approached him, her steps silent on the smooth floor. Elias, she said, her voice calm but firm, we begin your training today. Elias turned, bowing slightly. I am ready, Princess. She raised an eyebrow. Being ready is not enough. You must understand our ways, our traditions, and our battles. Humans fight differently. You rely on instinct while we rely on precision and technique. You must learn both. Their first lesson took place in the palace courtyard. The courtyard was circular, with walls of transparent energy that glowed with soft light. Lyra demonstrated her combat style, fluid, elegant, yet lethal. She moved faster than Elias's eyes could follow at first, dodging imaginary strikes and countering with perfect timing. Elias observed carefully, analyzing her movements. Then it was his turn. Humans were trained in improvisation and unpredictability. He used his instincts, dodging in ways that seemed messy to Zarathi standards but somehow worked. Lyra watched him silently, curiosity flickering in her eyes. You are unorthodox, she said finally. But effective, perhaps more effective than I expected. Over the next few hours, they practiced together. Lyra was patient, correcting his stance and teaching him alien combat techniques. Elias, in turn, shared human tactics, feints, misdirections, and improvisation. As they trained, small things began to emerge. Lyra laughed, a sound that seemed to harmonize with the glowing air around them, whenever Elias's human ways surprised her. Elias, for his part, noticed the way she watched him when she thought he wasn't looking. Careful, analytical, yet warm. After training, Lyra led him through the floating gardens. The air was cool, scented with alien flowers that pulsed faintly in the light. Streams of water floated in mid-air, held by invisible energy fields. Birds with translucent wings sang melodies that seemed almost like music. This is where I come, when I need to think, Lyra said softly. The world feels quiet here, even though it is alive. Elias nodded, sensing the calm she felt. "It is beautiful," he said. "But I imagine it is also dangerous. A place like this could hide many threats." Lyra smiled faintly. "Yes, that is why we come here. To remind ourselves that even in danger, there can be peace." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden alert. The palace sensors detected movement near the outer gates. A group of rebels opposed to Lyra's peaceful policies had gathered. Elias and Lyra exchanged a glance. "We train, yes," Lyra said, "but we also act. Follow me." They moved through the palace corridors with ease. Elias noted how she used her surroundings to her advantage: floating platforms, energy walls, and hidden passages. He followed closely, relying on human instinct to anticipate the rebels' actions. At the gates, they found the rebels attempting to disable the palace defenses. Elias stepped forward first. Using a mix of human speed and improvisation, he neutralized one of the attackers before the others could react. Lyra, standing beside him, unleashed a pulse of energy that sent the remaining rebels sprawling. Once the situation was under control, Lyra looked at him, her eyes bright. "You are impressive, Elias. Not just with strength, but with thought, strategy, and heart." Elias felt a flush of pride, though he kept his expression neutral. "I do what I must. It is my duty to protect you." Lyra nodded, then leaned closer, her voice softening. "You are more than a guard. Perhaps you are see." The morning sun glimmered over Valoria, casting long shadows across the floating gardens. Commander Elias walked beside Princess Lyra, who carried herself with her usual calm grace. Today, however, there was tension in her eyes. Something troubled her, though she had not yet spoken it aloud. They entered the ancient archives, a vast hall of holographic records that stretched higher than any human could reach. Lyra touched one of the floating panels, and images of Zarathi history appeared, flickering in soft light. "Elias," she said, her voice low, "there is something you must see, something that may explain why your arrival was so significant." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Significant? How so?" Lyra led him to a secluded chamber deep within the archives. The walls were lined with holographic projections of long-forgotten Zarathi events. She paused before one record. "This is a message from my ancestors. It speaks of a human who once saved Valoria in a time of great peril." Elias frowned. "A human? That must be centuries ago." Lyra nodded. "Yes, but the prophecy, it says that a human would appear again to protect the princess and bring balance to our world. The description fits you." Elias felt his heart skip. "You mean me? I am supposed to fulfill a prophecy?" Lyra's eyes shone with sincerity. "I do not know if it is fate or coincidence, but everything in our history points to a human arriving at a critical moment. And now here you are." Elias studied the projections. Images of a human figure fighting alongside Zarathi soldiers flashed across the panels. Ancient weapons, strange technology, and battles that had long been forgotten appeared as if alive. He could see how humans had aided Valoria in ways the current generation could hardly imagine. I do not know what to say," Elias admitted. "I am just a soldier. I never expected to be part of anything like this." Lyra placed a hand gently on his arm. "You do not need to understand everything yet. Just know that your presence matters more than anyone realizes. Your courage, your choices, they will shape our future." Before Elias could respond, an alarm blared through the archives. A hidden breach had been detected near the palace's outer perimeter. Lyra and Elias exchanged a quick glance, then moved swiftly through the corridors. At the gates, they saw rebel forces, larger and better organized than before. Their leader, a rogue Zarathi commander, had planned this carefully. His goal was to remove Lyra and claim control of the throne. Elias felt a surge of determination. He had trained for this, yes, But now the stakes were greater. It was not just duty. It was history, prophecy, and perhaps even destiny. Lyra turned to him. Elias, I need you to follow my lead, but also trust your instincts. Humans have a way of seeing paths that we cannot. Elias nodded. I understand. The battle began. Rebels approached with energy weapons, moving with precision. But Elias had learned from Lyra and from his own instincts. He dodged, rolled, and countered attacks in ways the Zarathi could not anticipate. Lyra stood beside him, sending controlled pulses of energy that incapacitated multiple enemies at once. During a brief pause, Lyra glanced at Elias. You are unlike any human I expected. You are clever, brave, and adaptable. Perhaps this is why the prophecy speaks of a human. Elias felt a mix of pride and humility. I only do what must be done. I cannot fail you. Lyra's eyes softened. And yet, I feel you will not fail. Not because of prophecy, but because of who you are. The rebels pressed harder, but Elias and Lyra moved in perfect coordination. He improvised traps and diversions, leading the enemy into areas where Lyra could strike effectively. Together, they were unstoppable. After the last rebel fell, Elias checked on Lyra. She was unharmed, though a few strands of her shimmering hair had fallen over her face. He brushed them away gently and she smiled at him. You see, Elias, she said softly, even in the heat of battle, humans bring something different, something unexpected, something remarkable. Elias felt warmth at her words, but also a strange sense of unease. He had come here as a protector, yet he was beginning to understand that his role went beyond guarding her life. He was part of something larger, something that connected him to Valoria's past and perhaps its future. Later, in the quiet of the palace gardens, Lyra spoke again. Elias, do you understand why I said I feel something for you? Something that existed even before we met? Elias looked at her, puzzled. I do not understand, Princess. Lyra gazed at the glowing plants around them, her voice gentle. Sometimes the heart knows before the mind. Long before your arrival, I sensed that someone like you would come. Brave, strong, and wise. Someone who could stand beside me, not just as a guard, but as an equal. Elias was silent, struck by the depth of her words. He had never experienced anything like this, a bond that felt ancient, almost predestined. He realized that protecting her was not just about survival. It was about trust, understanding, and perhaps something more. As the twin moons of Valoria rose in the sky, casting a silver glow over the palace, Elias and Lyra stood together, looking out at the floating cities. The world was vast, full of dangers and wonders alike, and though they had survived battles and betrayal, their journey had only just begun. Elias understood that the coming days would test not only their skills, but also their hearts. The prophecy, the rebels, and the hidden forces of Valoria all awaited. Yet for the first time he felt a quiet certainty. Together he and Lyra could face anything, and perhaps, just perhaps, their bond was the key to unlocking a future that neither humans nor Zarathi had ever imagined. The morning sun over, Valoria was hidden behind thick clouds, casting a gray shadow across the floating palace. Commander Elias felt a chill in the air, though it was not from the weather. Something was wrong. The council's whispers had grown louder in the past days, and Lyra's instincts told her that betrayal was near. As they walked through the palace corridors, Lyra spoke softly. Elias, trust no one outside of us. The council. Some of them are planning against me. They will strike soon. Elias's hand instinctively went to the sidearm at his belt. How soon? Lyra's eyes narrowed. Today. They have gathered forces outside, mercenaries and rogue guards loyal to them. We must be ready. The palace alarm suddenly blared. Red lights flashed across the corridors. Elias and Lyra ran toward the main hall, where the council usually met. As they arrived, the doors burst open. Soldiers loyal to the traitorous council, members stormed in. their weapons glowing with lethal energy. Elias pushed Lyra behind a pillar. His mind raced. These enemies were more organized than the rebels they had faced before. The traitors had planned this attack carefully. Lyra raised her hands, energy pulsing from her palms. One wave knocked down several attackers at once, giving Elias the opening he needed. Using his human instincts, he moved unpredictably, striking and dodging in ways the Zarathi soldiers could not anticipate. The hall erupted into chaos. Glass panels shattered, energy shields flickered, and the air filled with the hum of weapons. Despite the chaos, Elias and Lyra moved in perfect coordination. She provided the power and precision. He provided unpredictability and human ingenuity. At one point, a group of attackers cornered them near the council's archives. Elias spotted a small maintenance hatch leading to the upper floors. "This way," he shouted. They climbed through narrow passages, moving silently above the chaos. Below, from their vantage point, Elias could see the palace was overrun. Loyal guards were being pushed back. The council's traitorous members sneered from the hall below, confident that victory was theirs. Lyra turned to him, her eyes fierce. "We must strike back. They cannot take Valoria from us." Elias nodded. "Then we hit them where they least expect it." Using knowledge of the palace's layout, Elias led Lyra through hidden corridors, dropping small traps and disabling energy panels to confuse the attackers. Lyra followed, striking at enemies with controlled bursts of power. Together they moved like a single unit, human instinct and alien skill perfectly synchronized. They reached the main hall again from above, catching the traitorous council members off guard. Elias acted first, pushing a group of soldiers into an energy trap he had rigged. Lyra followed, sending precise pulses of energy that incapacitated the remaining attackers. The battle was fierce, but their combined skill turned the tide. After the last enemy fell, Elias and Lyra stood in the hall, breathing heavily. The palace was damaged, but it was still theirs. Lyra looked at him with a mixture of relief and admiration. "You were remarkable," she said softly. "Even against forces trained to defeat us, you adapted, you improvised, and you protected me." Elias shook his head slightly. "I only did what was necessary. I would do it again." Lyra stepped closer, her expression softer now. "You are not like any human I expected. Perhaps this is why I felt drawn to you even before you arrived. My heart recognized what my mind did not." Elias felt a warmth he had not expected. "Princess," he began. But she placed a hand gently on his arm. "Not now," she said. "We must focus on what comes next. The traitors may be defeated, but the threat is not over." They moved to the palace war room, a chamber filled with holographic maps and strategic displays. Lyra's advisors were already gathering there, some loyal, some shaken. Elias noticed the wary glances toward him. Despite his skill, many still doubted a human could be trusted with the fate of Valoria. Lyra addressed the room. "The traitorous council members sought to seize power, but we have thwarted them." The palace was quiet, but the tension hung heavy in the air. Commander Elias and Princess Lyra moved cautiously through the corridors. Though the council's traitors had been defeated, Elias knew the danger was far from over. Forces loyal to the rogue members were still scattered across Valoria, waiting for the right moment to strike. Lyra's hand brushed against a control panel, opening a hidden passage she had used only in emergencies. "This way," she whispered. "It will lead us to a safe sanctuary outside the palace. We can regroup there and plan our next move." Elias nodded, his senses alert. He had learned to trust Lyra's instincts, even when the paths seemed uncertain. They moved quickly but silently, their footsteps echoing faintly against the smooth walls. As they reached the sanctuary's entrance, a soft glow revealed the hidden chamber. Inside, ancient Zarathi artifacts and holographic maps filled the space. Lyra activated the holograms, displaying images of Valoria and its surrounding territories. "This place has been hidden for centuries," Lyra explained. "Only the royal family knows of it. It is where I come to think, to plan. And now, to survive. Elias studied the maps, noting the potential paths and dangers. We can use this location to our advantage. We know where the rebels are likely to move. I can help you anticipate their next strike. Lyra turned to him, her eyes reflecting both trust and curiosity. Elias, do you understand why I said I felt something for you? Long before you arrived? Elias paused, his mind racing. I think I am beginning to understand, Princess, but I want to hear it from you. Lyra stepped closer, her voice soft but certain. Even before I knew you, I felt that someone like you would come. Brave, clever, and steadfast. Someone who could stand beside me, not just as a guard, but as an equal. I trusted that person even before I met him. Elias felt a warmth in his chest. He had trained to protect her, fought alongside her, and relied on her in battle. But now he realized their bond went deeper. Princess, and I feel the same. I came here to protect you, but I cannot ignore what I feel for you. Lyra smiled faintly, a gentle light in her eyes. Then we understand each other. Their quiet moment was interrupted by movement outside. The sanctuary. Elias's instincts immediately went on high alert. Shadows moved near the entrance, scouts from the rogue forces. We have company, he said softly. We need to move. Lyra nodded, and together they activated a small aerial transport hidden in the chamber. The ship lifted silently, carrying them above the floating gardens. From the air, Valoria's beauty was breathtaking. Rivers of light, glowing forests, and floating cities stretched as far as the eye could see. Elias piloted the ship, navigating carefully around patrols. Lyra monitored the sensors, pointing out potential threats. Their coordination was seamless, a combination of human instinct and Zarathi precision. Finally, they reached a remote plateau, covered in bioluminescent plants and sheltered from prying eyes. It was a place of quiet and reflection, far from the chaos of the palace. Lyra deactivated the ship and let out a small sigh. Here, we can rest, and perhaps learn more about what this prophecy truly means. Elias approached the holographic archives, scanning the records for anything about the human mentioned in the ancient prophecy. He discovered accounts of a human who had once influenced Valoria's history, saving the planet from destruction, with intelligence, courage, and ingenuity. This human did more than fight, Elias said. He inspired the people, made alliances, and changed the course of history. It seems humans have always had an unseen impact on Valoria. Lyra nodded, her eyes serious. Yes, and now, history repeats. Perhaps humans were meant to stand beside the princess when the world faced danger. Perhaps it was always meant to be you, Elias. Elias felt the weight of her words. He had trained for duty, for skill, for survival, but now he realized his role went beyond protection. He was part of something larger. His courage, intelligence, and humanity were part of a legacy that the galaxy had quietly awaited. That evening, as the twin moons of Valoria rose, Lyra and Elias sat among the glowing plants. The air was calm, filled with the gentle hum of the sanctuary's energy. You have changed everything, Elias, Lyra said softly. Not just my life, but the future of Valoria. With you by my side, I can face anything. Elias reached for her hand. And I will. No matter what comes, I will not fail you. Lyra's eyes shone with a mixture of relief, trust, and something deeper. I know. That is why I have always loved you, long before they sent you. Perhaps the heart knew before the mind. Perhaps destiny chose well. Elias felt a deep connection to her, stronger than anything he had experienced. He realized that their bond was not just about protection. It was about partnership, trust, and a shared purpose that could shape the fate of a world. As they planned their next steps, the peaceful glow of the sanctuary reminded them of what they were fighting for. Valoria's future depended not just on strength or strategy, but on the courage to stand together, humans and Zarathi united. And in that moment, Elias understood something profound. Humans were not only capable of great courage and ingenuity, they were capable of inspiring trust, loyalty, and even love across the galaxy. The path ahead would be dangerous, but for the first time, Elias felt ready. Together with Lyra, they could face any threat, overcome any betrayal, and fulfill a destiny that had been waiting for centuries. The twin moons reflected off the floating plants, casting a serene light over the sanctuary. Elias and Lyra sat together, knowing that their bond, their courage, and their shared purpose were the keys to shaping the future. For Commander Elias, the adventure had grown beyond protection or duty. It had become a mission of the heart, of legacy and of hope, for Valoria, for Lyra, and for the galaxy. The morning light over Valoria was soft, yet tense. Commander Elias and Princess Lyra stood atop a cliff, overlooking the palace below. Though the rogue council members had been weakened, their forces were scattered across the city and surrounding territories, ready for one final attempt to seize power. Lyra turned to Elias. "This is it. Today we reclaim the palace and restore order. Are you ready?" Elias nodded. "I've faced worse, but today, we fight not just for survival but for the future." The palace loomed ahead, its floating towers glowing faintly in the morning light. Rebel forces patrolled its perimeter, unaware of the strategy forming in the minds of the human and princess. Elias activated the tactical display. Using human ingenuity and instinct, he outlined a plan that combined surprise, speed, and coordination. "We'll divide their attention. You lead the defenders inside the palace. I will strike from unexpected directions to disrupt their ranks. Together, we'll outmaneuver them." Lyra's eyes shone with determination. "Then let us go, for Valoria." They moved swiftly, using hidden passages and aerial transport to approach the palace. The rebels were caught off guard, expecting a direct assault. Elias's unpredictability, paired with Lyra's precise control over her powers, created confusion among the enemy ranks. From the palace's central tower, Lyra coordinated her loyal guards, directing energy shields and strategic strikes. Elias moved through the corridors, improvising traps and disabling rebel weapons with human cunning. The battle was intense. Energy blasts cracked walls, alarms blared, and the air filled with a hum of advanced technology. Yet despite the chaos, Elias remained focused, adapting to each new threat, protecting Lyra, and guiding her loyal forces. At one point, the rival council leader appeared, a proud Zarathi determined to claim the throne. He moved with precision, striking at anyone who stood in his way. Elias intercepted him, using a combination of human unpredictability and tactical skill to force him back. Lyra followed, delivering a controlled energy pulse that incapacitated the rogue leader. With their main adversary defeated, the remaining rebels quickly surrendered. The palace was secure once more. Elias and Lyra stood together in the main hall, their expressions weary but victorious. The loyal council members who had once doubted a human's worth now bowed in acknowledgement of Elias's skill, bravery, and leadership. Lyra addressed the council. "Valoria has been through trials today, but we have survived. Humans are not just allies. They are capable of courage, intelligence, and loyalty that can shape our world. Commander Elias has proven this. From this day forward, humans will have a place by our side, as partners, protectors, and friends." The council murmured in surprise, some nodding, others still unsure. But the message was clear. Humanity had earned respect, not through mere force, but through courage, ingenuity, and honor. Later, in the sanctuary, Elias and Lyra stood among the glowing plants, watching the floating cities shimmer in the evening light. The palace was safe, the rebellion crushed, and a new era had begun. Lyra turned to Elias, her eyes soft and radiant. "Elias, I loved you long before they sent you. Now, after everything, I know that feeling was not mistaken. You are more than my protector. You are my partner, my equal, and my future." Elias felt a warmth in his chest he could not describe. "Lyra, I came here to protect you, but now I know that my purpose is greater. Together we can lead Valoria, and perhaps even inspire the galaxy. I love you too. Lyra smiled, reaching for his hand. Then let us face the future together. With trust, courage, and the strength of our bond, nothing can stop us. As they stood hand in hand, the twin moons of Valoria rose, casting silver light